It's just after the break of dawn on Sojourner Farm in western New York, and yet we're already too late to have witnessed the actual start of the workday. All across the state and many parts of the country, farmers have already been at it for hours. Herding and feeding livestock, picking, sorting, tilling, processing, doing whatever it takes to put food on our tables. They're the backbone of our food system, and the fact is, early mornings are nowhere near the top of the list of sacrifices these feeders of America must endure. And given that they quite literally hold our survival in the palm of their hands, maybe it's time to take a closer look at what makes our food systems tick, and talk to the hardworking men and women who keep this fragile system going against all odds.
China is battling a new and rapidly spreading respiratory virus. The number of people infected has tripled to more than 200.
The ability of the deadly coronavirus to spread is getting stronger.
The first case of coronavirus has been confirmed here in the United States. The patient...
I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
There are now more than 118,000 cases in 114 countries, and 4,291 people have lost their lives. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
It seemingly came out of nowhere, even though we'd been warned that it was coming. Within a matter of weeks, the COVID-19 virus had breached the borders of the People's Republic of China and spread throughout the world like wildfire. And only 8 days after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, the first stay-at-home order was issued in California. By April 2020, about half the world's population was under some form of lockdown. And although the lockdowns were necessary to mitigate the spread of the virus, most industries experienced severe supply chain disruptions because of them.
U.S. equities have gone through a sizable correction this week with the outbreak of the coronavirus spreading across the globe and disrupting the different supply chains.
COVID-19 has toppled the global economy, creating enormous shocks to supply and demand.
But critical infrastructure couldn't be allowed to fail. Sectors like energy, defense, and agriculture had to be given special consideration. So guidelines for essential workers were developed by different agencies in individual states. And while they all varied in how they chose to define essential workers, they all knew that the agriculture and food production sector had to be at or near the top of the list. To help shore up the system, a series of economic stimulus packages were approved by Congress. And although these lifelines ensured that net farm income would be at its highest since 2014, by the end of 2020, 110,000 eating and drinking establishments had closed. 2.5 million restaurant industry jobs had disappeared, and billions were still lost from supply chain, workforce, food waste, and trade deficit issues. Whether things like climate change, backlash from tariff wars, and land loss are factored into the equation, the USDA's assessment of tough times having been underway for years is an undeniable fact. The arrival of COVID-19 in 2020 created the perfect storm. It exposed our vulnerabilities while simultaneously revealing our resilience.
With restaurants and such shutting down, the schools not being open, we were worried that we wouldn't have places for our product to go.
What do I think of the pandemic? I think it's a shame that it happened. scared to death.
You know, our employees were afraid, our volunteers were afraid, even our clients were afraid of trying not to get ill, trying to ensure that we were all keeping each other safe while also making sure that no one was hungry.
Initially, we were really kind of worried about what would happen. We didn't know we have all this crop in the field and everything, and you know, are we going to be able to sell it?
I mean, I probably worked double what I normally work in the month of April, just trying to network with other farmers markets and piece together how are we going to limit the number of people at one time? How are we going to, you know, all those things. It was incredibly stressful.
The money that were given the people for, you know, so they could stay home with the pandemic was a lot greater than what they could make in the farm. And we lost all the workers due to that. And they're still not coming around, so we do have a problem.
There wound up being deaths in the family, and you know, there was deaths from friends. And
if I knew a pandemic was going to hit, we probably wouldn't have opened a cheese factory.
It's really hard to see people coming in here with tears streaming down their faces saying, I never thought I would ever come here.
When I went to the grocery store and saw the shelves were bare because people were panic buying, I was terrified. I was really worried that there wasn't going to be enough food for people.
We never faced a moment in time when we had a volunteer shortage. We were turning volunteers away.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it was a kind of profitable year, the year that the pandemic hit, because we were one of the only games in town.
Our pigs and cows are all out in the woods and on pasture, so we kept the same grain rations, and we're pretty far out, we're pretty isolated, so life kind of went on as normal for us.
The pandemic did affect us a bit, but not as much as you would think.
Our workforce size didn't change at all during the pandemic. Nobody was laid off. In fact, we ended up having to add people.
What we saw at the farmers market and here at the mobile market as an increase in demand for local products because there wasn't any other option. So our sales at the farmers market actually doubled during the pandemic.
We kept smaller groups, so if somebody did get sick, we were able to keep them quarantined, you know, as a group, and it didn't affect the rest of the labor force. So it was managed pretty well, and we made it through it pretty well.
People were lining up in our driveway here wanting to get meat.
The farmers market became really important to people. They saw the shortages in the stores. They made extra effort to be there. They made effort to buy more while they were there.
Our life didn't really change a whole lot because we don't ever let fear rule our life. We have a hope. And so we held on to that hope. And our faith was challenged, but I knew that God would take this and use it for good. And I've seen so much evidence of that already.
We really didn't suffer too bad. We did have a few labor contract delays, but the ultimate end of the game, I would say we had a reasonable year based on everybody was kind of fluxing and changing and trying to kind of improvise on what they had done in the past.
Although many farmers claim to be unaffected by the pandemic, the empty shelves and high prices from the grocery stores, resulting from supply chain and workforce issues, tell a very different story for the food system as a whole. So did COVID-19 actually land a devastating blow to our food system? Or is our system so resilient that we need only endure temporary setbacks before fully rebounding from any disruption? The truth may very well lie somewhere in the middle.
It's really that I want to draw your attention to. In Western New York, we have a couple of million people that depend on the food system. But we also have 300,000 people that are in poverty. Reality is different for Black and brown and indigenous people, and we need to really see that.
But to know just how resilient our food system really is, we must first understand it.
All the processes to grow and make food to feed a community and care for the land is called a food system. Typically, there are 5 components of a food system: production, processing, distribution, consumption, and waste management, which also includes land regeneration.
In the next episode, we will begin to explore the components of our food system in the western, southern tier of New York State, and food systems in general.